Welcome to the Retirement Evolved podcast with certified financial fiduciary Adam Bruno.
I only have one thing to say, Lauren.
Woo!
We are back, and this is episode 38? 38. We're counting down to 50 now, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty darn good.
Pretty good.
I am Adam Bruno, certified financial fiduciary, and with me, as always, the one and the only, the world's greatest co-host, Lauren Trolson, and she's a darn good friend, too.
Oh, thanks, Adam.
Yeah, I figured I hadn't told you that enough.
Yeah.
So let's get kicked off right. Did I say that right?
You did.
Okay, good. I don't know. I haven't had a time to warm up here. This week in history, 1949, the NBA was born with the merger of the Basketball Association of America and the National Basketball League. And the world as we know it changed. Do you know how much money those basketball players make?
Oh.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I couldn't believe it. I saw
Even sitting on the bench.
Oh, my Lord. It's crazy. Anyway, 1961, the first Six Flags park opened in Texas. Remember Six Flags?
Yeah.
That was always a good time. 1973, American Graffiti was released in the theaters. That was George Lucas, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was what led to Star Wars eventually. 1975, labor leader Jimmy Hoffa was reported missing. And in 1981, the year that I was born, MTV went on air for the first time with the words, "Ladies and gentlemen, rock and roll."
Woo!
That's it. No, wait, you did it wrong. Woo! That's right. There we go.
That was pretty on point.
Well, say what? Is it that time?
It's a little say what?
Oh, boy.
A Nevada license plate telling people to go back to California was recalled by Nevada State DMV after receiving a complaint. The vehicle owner, whose plate reads GOBK2CA, is appealing the recall in defense of the vanity plate. A section of the Nevada Administrative Code prohibits defamatory references to a person or group. In this case, the defamed group would be Californians.
I don't know how to respond to this. It's a license plate, but, somebody's got to be walking around with a lot of hate saying, go back to California. It takes then they spent money on this.
Right?
That's it is what it is.
I'm surprised we haven't seen any in Florida.
Well, yeah, in Florida, you would think we'd see a lot of them. It's a mess. It's a mess here right now. Oh, my goodness.
Crazy.
Talk about crazy climate right now. All right, what else you get?
We've got
another one?
Second. Say what?
Say what? I love the way you say that.
Everyone in South Korea just became a year or two younger as new laws changed the way the age is counted. Under the age system commonly used, people are deemed to be a year old at birth, and a year is added every January 1st. The country has now passed laws to scrap the traditional method and fully adopt the international standard. A 27-year-old office worker in Seoul said, "I was about to turn 30 next year, but now I have some more time earned, and I love it. It's great to feel like getting younger." That's interesting.
Wait a minute.
So instead of so they took away
a year. So I'm only 40 still, technically.
If you were in
But we're not in South Korea. Thank God for that, right? Well, wait, no, North Korea is where all the animosity is right now.
I would assume that there's tons of animosity all over.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
I just, that's weird to me. That's kind of like the whole metric system versus, like the other standard with inches and centimeters. I got it. All right. Well, we are Evolution Retirement Services and Evolution Wealth Management. Hopefully by now you realize you only need to come to us when you have anything retirement related that you want to know. Something interesting that came up the other day, you all know there's a lot of reading that I do. There's a lot of things that I look at. This interesting term of the black swan. And basically the term means it's the thing that you didn't even know you didn't know about. So to me, I always feel like that's what we do for all of our families and all of our people that we interact with. We try to give them information and wisdom about things that they probably had no idea that was coming up in retirement. And in order to stay ahead of the curve, you can go to taxfreefortmyers.com. You have to spell the whole thing out. Tax-free, then Fort, FORTMYERS.com. And you can download a copy of the book there. You can also download a link to any of the other podcasts as well. We also have our webpage, Evolution Retirement Services, and we have 2 articles from Kiplinger up there that I've created and I got done with, and there's a lot of other helpful resources there. And not to mention the fact that you can always pick up the phone and call us, 239-771-8696. You can reach out via email at info@evolutionretirementservices.com. Anything that you would like to know is not off the table. If there is something that you ask that we don't have an answer for, we will find it for you. It's very rare that happens, but I do enjoy when that happens, right, Lauren? Because then we learn something new, which is nice. So anyway, so that's who we are. That's why we're here, and we want to keep the good times rolling. Anything you got, Lauren?
We've got some upcoming workshops.
Nice.
Wednesday, August 30th and Thursday, August 31st at the Broadway Palm Dinner Theater. Adam will be discussing taxes in retirement. After the workshop, which begins at 5:00, you will enjoy dinner and a show on us. And the show is Murder on the Orient Express.
Agatha Christie, Murder on the Orient Express.
The great. Have you seen that movie?
I did.
Just redid it.
Yeah, they did another one too, like a sequel, didn't they?
It was great.
Yeah, they were both
They were pretty good.
Yeah, it was very nice. I enjoyed that. I haven't had a chance to watch a lot of TV lately. I've been doing a lot of reading, but when I do get the opportunity, I'm trying to do like the short 20 or 30-minute shows just to randomly throw something in there. It's been really hard to sleep lately, though. Maverick and Scarlett have been just, since we're sleeping, we can say nightmares. Holy cow. It's been, they just don't want to go to bed. So I'm climbing into bed at midnight saying, oh, thank God they're finally asleep, So not terrible twos, though, right? I mean, it's kind of like just toddler age stuff,
Yeah.
Just weird. I don't know if it was a full moon.
At least they're not getting out of their bed yet, or the crib.
Oh, he does. He climbs out of the crib. I have to. Yeah, it's.
Kurt and Callie they have like a little thing on their fridge, and anytime Kinley stays in her bed all night, she gets a little star on this little piece of paper. But I noticed last time I was over there, there were
not
too
a lot
many
of stars on the flag there, huh? Yeah, no, and I don't trust that Kurt came up with that. That had to have been.
That's a teacher thing.
Totally 100%. A Callie thing. Absolutely. Yeah. So the other thing that we're hearing a lot about right now, just to take a little bit of time and talk about this, the political environment has become so crazy, and now DeSantis is really, I don't know what he's kind of thinking when some of this stuff comes up, but now we're getting rid of, in the state of Florida, AP psychology for juniors and seniors, which is crazy. To me, it's nuts. Now, I get when we talk about education and we talk about keeping sexuality, out of the classroom for the first 3 years of their life, K through third grade or whatever. I could get that. I could get behind that. I understand that maybe there's some thoughts. I certainly would want to be the one to talk to my kids about sexuality if they had any questions.
Right.
I wouldn't want to put that on a stranger. Well, not the teachers are strangers, but I would want to, as their father, be able to have that conversation. But when you talk about 17, 18-year-old kids that are just getting ready for college, and we can't include AP psychology anymore because it discusses sexuality, well, that's what psychology is. I mean, those are all the things that come up with psychology. So this whole thing, to me, I just feel like, wow. And we're going to have to pick eventually. We're going to have to pick our leaders eventually. And we're going to look at this ballot, and we're going to wish that there was a none of the above choice at the end of this thing. I mean, that's what it's coming down to.
And it's taking away an opportunity for kids that age that are developing, and it takes away an opportunity for them to learn more about everything, especially if you're going to be a psychology major in college, if that's something you're interested in.
Well, the other thing is in the right setting, right? This is a course that has been tried and true for years. I mean, it's not like, I know a lot of people threw a big fit about the African studies course, me included, because obviously Kelly's black and my two kids are mixed Italian and Jamaican, and to me, I would love to see a course that studied African studies. I would love that. And colleges offer courses like that.
Yes.
But when you talk about the educational level, when we're discussing like high school, and we're talking, obviously you want to get it right. You want the curriculum to be right. You don't want there to be any loose ends. And I get it. It was a new curriculum. So going back and forth to the drawing board made sense to make sure we have the right curriculum. But AP psychology,
I know,
it's just it's nuts. And it just speaks to this world that we're living in this political climate where now everybody's so laser focused on these topics, and we're getting away from the 31 trillion in debt, and we're getting away from the $18 billion deficit, right? So it's almost like a shell game.
It's crazy,
don't you think?
It really is. It's when I was in college, I took intro to psychology. It was one of the courses they offered to fill in, your other credits. And it was such an interesting class. I mean, I remember thinking like, wow, I love going to this class. And so it's really just taking away, there's so many things like that they've taken away. That's just, books. I mean, look at the book situation we're in, where they take away, different, it's just crazy.
I read as a kid reading really saved me because I spent a lot of time sick and a lot of time in bed, and I would read everything. I can't think of any book that I read. There's a few books that I read that were controversial and made me think, oh man, but it didn't do anything to my psyche. Of Mice and Men is holy crap, that book is, Catcher in the Rye. Like there's a lot of books out there that make you like, whoa, this is dark. But that's the reality of the world that we live in. There's not everything that we look at is going to be sunshine and rainbows. So it's just a crazy environment that we're in now and even the fact that like in Lee County, we got rid of the statue downtown in Fort Myers, General Lee, right? You don't have to be a General Lee fan. You don't have to be a fan of slavery, but you don't just take things down and erase it from history. Like we should have been able to learn from that. Every time we look at that statue, we should be like, God, this was horrible. We need to learn from that and learn from our mistakes. And we're taking away all reminders of things just because it makes us uncomfortable. And last time I checked, we didn't live in a country where everybody is supposed to be comfortable. Yeah. That's not what creates a great country. But I'm not running for president. I'd probably.
Maybe you should. Adam Bruno, 2024.
I would love the ability. The problem is that I would go into it for the right reasons. And then you get sucked into the political landscape and you realize that the whole system is broken. Then you're wheeling and dealing behind the scenes and all this other crap that goes on, But term limits are a good idea because maybe we get more people that are in there for the right reasons and they don't have 40 years to get, to get jaded, right? So that's just, anyway. So what do you got for the retirement landscape?
So 5 reasons people are scared to talk about finances.
Okay.
Number 1, fear of the Jones family and being compared to others in terms of income, savings, and spending habits.
That's a really interesting reason because normally isn't it keeping up with the Joneses?
Right. Well, I think that's what it is if you can't keep up with the Joneses, you don't want, people are scared to talk about that, who's got the newest and coolest thing,
It's funny because your neighbor buys a Tesla and all of a sudden you want a Tesla now, right? But when it comes down to something like this, you would think that they would want to be more like the neighbors if the neighbors had a little bit more financial literacy. But whatever. I mean, I don't know. Again, backwards.
Well, speaking of literacy, lack of financial literacy, either real or perceived. So that's the second one on here.
I could see that because I don't know if you've tried to Google lately when we talk about, anything investment related or finance related. When you Google that, I mean, it's just a mess of sales sponsored ads, right? All that stuff.
That's why we use the DuckDuckGo.
That's right. So if you're out there listening, DuckDuckGo is a great alternative to Google if you want to not be retargeted or focus sales calls or any of that stuff. But it's really hard to get really good wisdom right now. So you can't blame people. I mean, where are they going to look? They're going to look on the computer and automatically it's going to turn into a sales pitch.
Yep. Number 3, cultural and societal norms where it's not polite to discuss finances. Well, I think that goes back to the old school, like, you don't discuss what you make. You don't discuss your finances with people, that aren't, your significant other. I mean.
Well, and you talk about cultural and societal norms. I mean, the biggest generation of people retiring right now are the baby boomer generation. Right. So that was a whole different culture back then. So I could see,
absolutely,
being a little bit hesitant to discuss your finances.
Sure.
It's just that we don't mind calling each other out about who we voted for and all this other stuff, all these, our religion or, who we fall in love with. We don't mind calling each other out about all those things or what our pronouns are, but we can't talk about the important things like retirement. It's crazy.
And fear of appearing greedy or materialistic. And I think that's where it goes to the not polite to discuss finances because you don't want to come off as you're bragging or that, you're better than somebody. I think that's one of the things that I would be scared about, is talking to somebody that may not be in the same situation as me or, somebody
Well, speaking
else.
To that, when you speak to other people that are in the situation, you're going to come off as appearing materialistic or greedy anyway.
Right.
I was just talking to intern Caleb about this. We miss him. He's going back to school.
He's
so
back to
we miss
school.
You, Caleb. We miss you. He asked me a really important question. He said, what do your relationships look like outside of work? And I tell him a lot of times it can be very lonely because when you're discussing, normal things in your life, like growing the business the right way, right? People automatically say, well, you're making a lot of money, aren't you?
Right.
Well, that's not the goal anymore though. It's great that you make a lot of money, but the goal is how do you grow this the right way? How do you make a difference? Those things are not on the minds of normal people that have to go to work every day, that have to get a job done, so it's hard and it's lonely. And I could clearly see why people would be afraid to appear greedy. I don't openly discuss business and things like that with a lot of my friends unless it's my closer circle because I know how I would sound to other people, right? And that's going to make me sound like I play fantasy football with a guy that only talks about his landscaping business and his new cars that he bought and all this stuff. That's his normal life. But the guys that are sitting around that table, That's not their normal life. So it makes it seem like he's a little bit of an asshat.
And the last one, number 5, privacy concerns.
Right.
Which we're in a world where people are stealing identity, getting access to credit cards and things like that. I understand that part of it. You don't want to come off like openly speaking about, this is, how many.
Yeah, so you openly speak about how much money you make, and then that opens the door for somebody to overhear it, and
or what your credit card limit is, or anything like that.
That makes sense. And you got to be careful. I don't know how many text messages I get every day saying my number's on the black web now and all this other stuff. So I could see that. So these reasons though, if any of these reasons make you uncomfortable or make you concerned about discussing, just understand we are licensed. I'm a certified financial fiduciary. We have a very good team behind us. One of our biggest items on the agenda every year is not just security, but it's also making sure that we have our non-disclosure agreements updated. So every family we talk to or meet with gets a copy of a non-disclosure agreement so they know their information is secure. And there's a lot of firms that quite frankly just don't do that, which really surprises me because you are dealing with a lot of sensitive information. So we take that very seriously, obviously. What else you got?
I've got some Roth IRA contribution rules. We always talk about this in our workshops about contributing to a Roth IRA, your 3 C's.
Right, 3 C's.
The Roth IRA has become a popular retirement savings tool, but they aren't available to everyone. And the IRS limits how much you can contribute to a Roth IRA each year. The Roth IRA contribution limit for 2023 is $6,500 or $7,500 if you're age 50 or older.
Right. And in order to contribute, right, the 3 C's, the first one is can't. A lot of people here, I can't have a Roth IRA. You can't have one. You're too old. You can't have one. You make too much money. But able to contribute to a Roth IRA, you do have to have an earned income somehow. So these limits are for people that are still earning an income.
Whether you can contribute the full amount to a Roth IRA depends on your income, which we were just talking about. Some Roth IRA withdrawals trigger taxes and penalties. If you withdraw your earnings before age 59 and a half, you are subject to income taxes and a 10% penalty.
Now, little caveat to that, if you are in a career where you retire early, like law enforcement or maybe the medical field, whatever it might be, first responders, there are things you can do and there's tax forms you can file to get around that without paying a penalty. But in most situations, you are absolutely correct. If you're under the age of 59 and a half, even though the Roth is tax-free, you're still paying a 10% penalty for withdrawal.
If you withdraw your earnings before they have been held for 5 years, your earnings will be subject to taxes.
Also correct. So the earnings, not the money that went into the Roth, but the money that you've earned on the Roth are subject to taxes. So everything that you put in there is always tax-free.
So any gains?
Any gains. So if you put in $500,000 and you made $50,000 one year, right? So that means that $50,000 is subject to capital gains taxes, right? But the 500 is never subject to taxes.
If your income precludes you from contributing directly to a Roth IRA, you may be able to contribute to a traditional IRA and then immediately convert that to a Roth IRA. If the money has not been invested in the interim, that move can be made without tax consequences.
That's correct. That's why a lot of these high income earners and the IRS, they're trying to do away with this year. They're trying to say anybody under the age of 50 can't do this type of conversion, which is called a backdoor Roth conversion. But if you are making a lot of money and you dump $20,000 into an IRA on the side, and then you move that, you should move the $20,000 right away over to the Roth IRA, so you don't have more tax consequences, because you are going to pay the tax on the $20,000, but then if you earn money, you're paying even more tax and you're paying full taxes. So if you made $4,000 in the interim, you're paying the tax on $24,000 instead of $20,000. So a lot of times it's a good idea to move it right away. Just get it in there, then move it. So
great.
Yeah, that's great stuff, Lauren. Good stuff. What else you got?
So join the conversation, guys. Your questions matter. We encourage you to submit a question to us, and that way we get a couple questions each time, and we try to talk about them and give you some. Adam tries to give you guys some advice on what your situation looks like, and feel free to submit a question to us. Kurt loves questions, so feel free to email Kurt at evolutionretirementservices.com. And also, our info box is always open. You could submit them on our website, taxfreefortmyers.com, spelled out, taxfree, Fort, FORTMYERS.com. rs.com.
Nice.
So, Adam, first question. This is Steve. He's 66 years old, and he's been feeling overwhelmed with all the news lately about how he might end up running out of money during his retirement. He said it's frustrating to think about. On the flip side, I don't want my hard-earned savings just sitting in the background doing nothing. At this stage of my life, what would you recommend in terms of investment vehicles?
Such a good question. It's all over the news too. Like they're saying $1 million enough? We think so. Or $1 million not enough, right? Like they always have a different story for this, like whether it's enough money to last through retirement. But Steve, one thing I would definitely tell you, try and turn the news off as much as you can. I mean, it's getting brutal out there, and it'll continue to get brutal leading up to November. So I would definitely take everything you hear with a grain of salt. Number two, it's very easy for me to tell you about all these different investment options that you have. Okay. It's very simple. We could tell you all different investment tools that are available to you. None of those tools will matter unless you know specifically what your goals are for that money. So number one is identifying what you want your retirement to look like for the next year, and then what you want it to look like after the next 3 years and 5 years and so on. So the key though with retirement though is it's always a moving target. We never know whether we might get the wanderlust itch to go travel one year a little bit more, do something like that. So we like with our families to focus on the yearly goals, what we want the money to accomplish. If you are concerned about running out of money, but you also are concerned about losing money in the market, there are plenty of tools that will help you kind of preserve what you have and also grow what you have. Now, traditionally, it used to be, well, if you want safety, you buy an annuity. If you want to take risk, you buy into the market. Well, that world is gone now. This private wealth management world, you have a lot of options, and there's many different sectors you can do it in. You can do it with the banks. You can do it with the market. You can do it with insurance companies. There's a lot of different ways you can do it, but there's always a catch for everything. So the way that we like to structure things is we like to know right away, Steve, if you've got, $1 million, how much of that do you want to keep completely safe? Like you want to make sure that grows, but you don't want to take any risk. You don't want to pay any fees. That would then be designated probably into like the insurance world or the banking world or even treasuries at this point now. Treasuries are paying pretty well. So it's trying to figure out exactly what you want. So a lot of people, and just like you, Steve, a lot of successful families, they know right away, I don't want this at risk. I want to take this completely off the table. Then you work your way up from that point. So how much risk do we want to take? And the way that we look at that, Lauren, and you know this, we have a program called Riskalyze that assigns a speed limit to all of our family members, all of our clients. We don't have clients, we have families. All of our families are given a speed limit based on their answer to certain questions from 0 to 100. If the speed limit is 45 miles an hour, you're pretty, conservative to moderate investor. So you don't want to take a huge risk there. But the nice thing is with all the management teams we work with, Vanguard, State Street, Wisdom Tree, BlackRock, Avantis, there's so many, First Trust, there's so many management teams that we work with. They all have different roles and they all use the same speed limit system. So it's easy for us to identify, hey, show us everything between 40 and 45 miles an hour. So we're able to kind of narrow it down. Then you look at how the companies are invested in there. They're all exchange traded funds. So they're all very low cost. So I hope that helps. The short answer is you have to know what your goals look like. I gave you a little bit of longer answer because I didn't want to just come off when you asked about investments and not say anything about investments. So hopefully that helps. Always here if you have more questions.
That was great, Adam.
Oh, thank you, Lauren.
You're welcome. Our second question. I'm nearing retirement and I've been hearing about Roth conversions, which we just talked about. If I decide to convert a portion of my traditional IRA to Roth IRA, how exactly does the taxation work for that? Will I have to pay taxes on the converted amount up front, or can I spread it out over time? Just trying to understand the implications before making any moves. Very
simple answer there. Anything that you convert to a Roth, you will pay taxes on that amount that you converted. If you convert $25,000, you will add $25,000 to your income, and then you'll pay the taxes on it based on what bracket you're in. The best way to look at it as seeing what bracket you're in now. So if you have up to $190,000 before you jump into the next tax bracket, and your income is $93,000 right now, you have almost $100,000 of room to do that conversion in. That's the only way you can spread it out over time is if you have $500,000 in an IRA, you're not going to convert the whole $500,000 all at once, right? You try and fill up your tax bracket so that you can spread that tax liability over time, but you are paying the entire tax on the amount that you convert. So if you convert 50, you're paying the tax on 50. You're adding it to your income.
Is that tax bracket is that different for if you're married or single?
Right. If you're married or single, there are different. Obviously, you can get an email. We'll send you the latest updated tax brackets. But if you're single, it's the same thing, right? You try and keep yourself within that 20 to 22% bracket based on your income. You don't ever want to go up to that. If you're married, $194,000. And if you're single, it's $87,000, I believe. If you go over that number of income, you're going to be paying more for your Medicare Part B. So you have to be careful with that as well. So
that kind of goes into our next question. This is from Susan.
Okay.
She's in the process of planning her retirement. She says, I'm thinking about taking on some consulting work to have a bit more income, but I've heard that earning more in retirement could impact my Medicare costs. Can you explain how this works?
Yeah, it's simple, Susan. So what will happen is we have so many families that do this. Usually successful families are successful for a reason. They've done really well in their work life as well. So it's hard to just completely transition and walk away from the working world, which leads to opportunities for consulting. Now, when you consult, you just have to be very careful about how much money you make, because you're going to take up you're going to add up all of your income at the end of the year. And again, if you're married, Susan, and you and your husband combined make more than $194,000 in adjusted gross income, then they are going to charge you more for your Medicare Part B. So the threshold that you need to stay below is $194,000. As long as you stay below that, you'll be okay. You won't have to worry about the Medicare.
Our last question comes from Tom. He says, I actually attended one of your educational workshops before. I found it informative and had a great time. Before I schedule an appointment to come in, I'm curious about how your meeting process goes. Could you give me a rundown of what to expect? Just want to be prepared.
Sure. Yeah, that's really that's my favorite part of this whole process, is just meeting new people and sitting down with them. But the reality is, the first meeting with us, we do send you a secure link through email. We send you some videos and some text messages as well to prepare you. But the reality is, when you sit down with us, what we're trying to accomplish that first time is just getting to know you, understanding your situation, what your goals are, what your vision is for retirement, and obviously understanding any of the road bumps that you've ran into so far. The reality, though, is that first meeting is just getting to know you, understanding completely what the situation looks like, because as a certified financial fiduciary, it's really hard to give you any advice if we don't know exactly what you're trying to accomplish, right? So it's just a getting to know you session, and then it's followed by a second meeting, usually a week later or 2 weeks later, where we give you a complete snapshot of what your retirement looks like. You'll be able to understand what your income looks like for the next 20 years, what your investment cost is. You'll have a Roth conversion report showing you what it looks like if you do Roth conversions or if you didn't do Roth conversions. You'll know right away whether you're going to have a Medicare issue with paying more for your Medicare. So all of those things are meant to prepare you. You just don't expect to pay for anything. Don't expect to definitely or definitively work together. We do identify families that we work with, but that's secondary to the goal of the appointment process, is getting you the help and answering your questions. If there's a way for us to work together, great. But we are very selective of who we work with. We want to be able to bring a lot of value, because we do charge a fee for our services every year. So we want to make sure that we're able to bring that value. Otherwise, people will just leave. And the worst couple years in the market right now, we haven't had anybody leave, which says something about us and our team and Lauren and Kurt and everybody here. So that's what it looks like. It's very simple. It's not meant to be complicated. It's a conversation. So, well, guys, I think that's everything for the questions this week, right, Lauren?
Yes, it is.
Anything you want to add?
Yeah, just guys, please submit your questions. I mean, these are great, and Adam really does a great job of answering these. And, if we can help you in any way, that's what we're here for. We're here to help. Evolution Retirement Services. We're located right in Fort Myers, right off of Brantley Road. We will be moving offices soon.
So excited.
So excited. And it's right across the street, literally across the street. And yeah, it's great. So we're ready to
rock and roll.
Rock
we're ready
and roll.
to rock and roll. I do have a question. How's Devin doing? Is he doing good? I miss my guy.
Of course you would.
Yeah, my Tony Romo guy.
He's doing great. We just moved in together. So
yeah. Wow, that's a big step. Wait a minute.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a big step right there.
Adam,
All
all right.
Devin, I love you, brother. I can't wait to see you. Still got to get I still got to work on my car for me.
Yeah,
I keep forgetting about that. Anyway, all right, everyone. Again, taxfreefortmyers.com, evolutionretirementservices.com. We're here. We're not going anywhere. It's our yard. We'll see you on the next podcast. Peace out, everybody.
investment advisory services are offered through Evolution Wealth Management Incorporated, an investment advisor registered with the state of Florida. Registration does not imply any level of skill or training. Evolution Wealth Management's unique CRD number is 307644. You can obtain a copy of Evolution Wealth Management's firm brochure, Form ADV Part 2A, free of charge by visiting advisorinfo.sec.gov. Evolution Wealth Management offers investment advisory services only, where it is appropriately registered or exempt from registration, and only after clients have entered into an investment advisory agreement confirming the terms of engagement and have been provided a copy of the firm's ADV Part 2A. Insurance services are provided by Evolution Retirement Services. Any guarantees mentioned are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company and may be subject to restrictions, limitations, or early withdrawal fees, which vary by the issuer. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. You should consider the charges, risks, expense, and investment objectives carefully before entering a contract. This material has been prepared for informational purposes only and should not be construed as a solicitation to effect or attempt to effect either transactions in securities or the rendering of personalized investment advice. This material is not intended to provide and should not be relied on for tax, legal, accounting, or other financial advice. Evolution Wealth Management and Evolution Retirement Services do not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. You should consult your own tax, legal, and accounting advisors before engaging in any transaction. Evolution Wealth Management and Evolution Retirement Services are affiliated entities.